Hello everyone, welcome to the Talking Tungsten podcast, the only darts equipment specific podcast. I'm your host Kurt from matadordarts.com, where this podcast is hosted. And today we had the brand new Winmau 2023/2024 launch. And what we're going to be doing is covering some of the things that came out today as part of an absolutely mega launch from Winmau. We're also going to be covering a few other bits and pieces that have come up in the world of darts equipment over the last week as well. Before we do get started, I would like to say if you're listening on Spotify, please drop a follow, or if you are listening on YouTube, please do hit the subscribe button. It really does help the podcast. So what we're going to do is go into the Winmau launch and just cover some of the things that have come out as part of that. Firstly, we're going to touch on the brand new Pro Series. So the Pro Series is a line of 85% tungsten darts that are modelled after the match darts of Winmau players. In this launch we had a Danny Noppert, Daryl Gurney, Florian Hempel, Joe Cullen, Michael Van Gogh and Simon Whitlock 85% tungsten dart released. All of the darts for the most part have the same grip style and same barrel shape as their 90 or 95% counterparts. The only difference really being that they are black coated, and also they feature a maximum length of 50.8mm. I believe all of the barrels are 50.8mm, and that is probably to reduce the amount of machining that has to go into each tungsten billet, therefore reducing the cost of production, and therefore they can sell at a lower price. As mentioned before, these darts are black coated, and they also feature paint in the colour of the player's branding. So, Michael Van Gogh's one has like the light green paint, Joe Cullen's darts have the red paint, and so on. I have written about these darts and given each one a little summary on my website, so if you head over to matadordarts.com and go to the blog section, you'll be able to find that blog post in there, so I won't talk too much about these darts. What I will say is I think they're a really nice alternative for people who perhaps like a shorter version of certain players' darts, especially Daryl Gurney, Florian Hempel and Michael Van Gogh, because their darts are naturally sort of like 52, 53mm long. These are obviously capped at 50.8, so a really nice alternative for a shorter barrel in the same style. Winmau also did release quite a few other darts as well. They released a brand new Brendan Dolan dart, which was actually leaked a few weeks ago on Twitter. They'd done a sort of good luck to Brendan Dolan in the European Tour, or the Grand Prix I believe it was, and they actually had the graphic with his new dart on there, so that was kind of expected. They also released a normal new Florian Hempel dart, sort of his new match darts. They released a new Leonard Gates darts, obviously he was signed by Winmau not too long ago. Simon Whitlock has received his sort of tapered torpedo shape barrel as well, which he had been using recently. And also they have re-released some Willie O'Connor darts after he had a bit of a dispute with Winmau, went off and made some of his own darts, and then he's now back with Winmau. In terms of non-player darts, they've released the Firestorm Flame. So if you remember the Firestorms from before, where they were like a yellow, green and blue coating, they've released these in sort of like a flame colour, so red, orange and yellow. They're available in two different styles. They've released the Foxfire Urban, so if you remember Red Dragon's launch last year, they brought out the Spectron range, so they released the Red Dragon Javelin in a Spectron colourway, which is basically just a rainbow coating. The Foxfire Urban is actually just the standard Foxfire 80% tungsten darts, and then they've re-released them with a rainbow coating and called them the Foxfire Urban. If you do remember from the past, there were some Urban labelled products from Winmau, I can't remember the exact names, but it follows the same suit with that rainbow coating, and that's what they've done here with the Foxfires. They've also released brand new versions of the Sniper. They've also released Sniper Black and Sniper Special Editions as well. If you want to go and check out any of these darts, they'll be available on premierdarts.co.uk. If you go to purchase any of these darts as well, use the code MD5, that's MD for Matador Darts, and 5 at checkout for 5% off. I just wanted to talk about a couple of the darts which have come out as part of the Winmau launch, some of the ones which I think are a little bit more interesting. Firstly, the Brendan Dolan darts. So these feature a very, very sort of complex look compared to Brendan Dolan's old darts. They still feature the sort of front scallop, which is probably about the width of a finger, if not even that. So a nice little reference point if you do hold the very front of the dart. Behind that, they feature some very intricate cut rings. They look like there are two larger rings separated by two smaller rings within the middle, and then they're also laterally cut as well, so you've got that sort of natural tungsten and also green coating on there too. I'd say in the sort of third quarter of the barrel, or sort of like, 2/3 of the way up, you also have another scallop section which wasn't there on Brendan Dolan's previous darts. This features sort of like a smaller sort of multi-ring grip section. The rings actually look kind of rounded as well, so perhaps something a little bit more subtle for people who don't like too much grip. And then at the rear you also have the 3 rings, which is featured on the front of the barrel as well. Really striking looking darts. I think they're a bit too over the top for me. There's a lot going on there. They'll suit some people. Some people really like the colour green. Shout out Darren at Darts Review Channel. I'm sure he'll love these darts because of the amount of green on them. But for me personally, they're a bit too over the top. But I know they'll definitely suit some people, especially with the style with those scallops as well. The Firestorm Flame are available in 2 different versions. They're available in a tapered version and also a parallel version. The grip is not as sort of intricate as you may think or as it looks. The main selling point here is obviously the yellow, orange and red Firestorm coating. Similar to the original Firestorms. Very, very striking darts, very, very different. I'm not sure how quickly the coating will fade away. I think it faded pretty quickly on the original Firestorms. Whether these are the same, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, available in every weight from 21 through to 26 grams. The odd weights are the tapered version and the even weights are the parallel version as well. Finally, I just wanted to cover the brand new Sniper Special Edition darts. So the first version of the Sniper SE is kind of like the original version with the almost Simon Whitlock style scallop towards the rear and they taper towards the front. And the second version of the Sniper is almost a bit more wider at the front, tapers towards the back. Has again very, very intricate cuts as you would expect from a special edition dart. These are also black coated but do feature more machining which shows off that natural tungsten, which is what makes them the special edition. I think I would have preferred to have seen maybe a different colour coating on these, but unfortunately we don't get that here. The Sniper Blacks are just a re-release of the original Snipers but with black coating, so that is what you can expect from those. Another thing that Winmau launched as part of this 2023-2024 launch was actually a brand new dartboard accessory. So they released a product which you can hang on the wall, suspends the dartboard by wires, and it means that your dartboard is less noisy, or it produces less noise when someone is in an adjacent room. How well this works, I'm not 100% sure. Could it be a useful product for people? Yes, if it works. How many people are going to buy it? I'm not 100% sure. It could be one of those things that if it works really, really well, it could absolutely take off, because I haven't seen anyone else really release something like this on the market. I know there is solutions similar to this out there, but not made by a major company like Winmau, so it'll be interesting to see if this product really does take off. I know there are a lot of people out there that have problems with, sound with neighbours, with people inside their own house. Me personally, I can't really play darts sort of past 9 PM because it gets too loud for people who are trying to chill out or go to sleep early because they're going to work. So this could be something that could be very useful for me, rather than having to play it on, like something like a dartboard stand, which does wobble quite a bit. I will see if I can pick one of these products up and also review it for you guys as well, so make sure you subscribe to Matador Darts on YouTube, and hopefully you'll see a review of this product. Also from the Winmau launch, we had a brand new integrated flight and stem system released, similar to that of the Condor Axe and the new Target K-Flex. Winmau brought out their own version called the Winmau Fusion. Unlike the K-Flex, they've actually released this in a larger flight, so a number 2 shaped flight. They've also released it with more colours as well, so a little bit of a head start on the K-Flex releases. What I will be doing is actually doing a comparison video between the Condors, the K-Flexes and also the Fusions. So I'm not going to talk about them too much because I haven't got my hands on them yet. But I will be doing a comparison on my YouTube channel, so make sure you go and check that out when that does release. I'll also be doing a write-up of it on my blog as well, because I feel like it's a pretty important topic and quite a competitive market at the moment in the world of darts. So definitely something to look out for. Speaking of the integrated flight and stem systems, Target actually released a graphic the other day of a timeline of when certain things from the K-Flex are going to come out. The Target K-Flex came out in a clear, white and also black colourway, but you did get a blue version which came exclusively with the Target 975 Ultramarines. Well, in December they're going to be releasing some new colours. From the looks of things, it's going to be red, green and blue. In early 2024 they're going to be releasing a number 2, so a standard shaped flight. Whether that also includes, smaller flights as well, I'm not 100% sure. It does just say new shape as a singular, so perhaps it will just be the number 2 shape. And then in late 2024, they're going to have some new designs. So I imagine it's going to be like player-specific designs. Gabriel Clemens has been using the K-Flex, so I imagine they're going to bring out, like a German flag one for Gabriel Clemens, and also perhaps some other sort of non-player branded ones as well, which would be interesting to see. Moving on to a couple of players now. So last week we had the Harrows launch. This week in the Pro Tours, Damon Heta wasn't using his brand new darts. We mentioned last week that there was not really any clue of his new darts coming out apart from his new shirt, because we hadn't really seen him use any new barrels, and normally you get to see the players using the new barrels before they come out. But in this case, Damon Heta is actually stuck with his first versions. Will we see him change anytime soon? I'm not 100% sure. He might go to them after the World Championships when you have that little bit of a break. We'll have to wait and see. Also during the week, halfway through sort of the Pro Tour block that we had of 4 events, Johnny Clayton tweeted out and put on his Instagram that he was going to be testing out some different darts. I say testing, they are actually darts that have previously been released by Red Dragon, and they were his Premier League special editions. He tweeted and posted out there, he said, "Decided to give these a run out today, let's see how they fly," at Red Dragon Darts, and they were a picture of his Premier League special editions. They did look slightly modified. The natural tungsten and the PVD coating looked the other way round. I know in a previous Red Dragon sort of launch video where Johnny Clayton was testing out some products, he said he prefers the feel of the natural tungsten rather than the paint or the PVD coating, which is probably why they have reversed the PVD coating and the natural tungsten on these specific darts. They were probably made specifically for Johnny Clayton. I don't think he had too much of a turnaround in luck with the new equipment, but he didn't play overly badly either. Whether we'll see him stick with these darts or go back to his natural darts, we'll have to wait and see. Finally, I just wanted to touch on a topic which come up as part of a little discussion that was coming up on Twitter. So Sam Wren on Twitter actually said, "Can you talk about why you use a certain stem?" And he also posted up on Twitter, "Do you mess about with your flights and stems or setups to try and find some form?" And I just want to talk a little bit about that. Me personally, I used to use a short stem when I first got into darts, or when I first got into darts properly, that is in sort of the back end of 2019. The main reason was because they were just sort of the stems I always sort of had, I guess, and used them for quite a while. I did test here and there sort of medium stems, but it was generally sort of stuck with short stems, always stuck with shorts when I played games and stuff. And I really liked them because of the way they kicked up in the board. If you don't know, generally a shorter stem means your darts have a closer front centre of balance, and it means your darts will kick up in the air depending on how you throw them. Then what happened was, one day I just decided to switch to medium stems, played a Super League game, played the best game I'd ever played, and I've sort of stuck with them since then. Up until recently, where I switched to condors, I've gone back down to an intermediate stem just because the thickness of the flight also counts for the stabilisation. The way I throw darts is sort of quite flat, so if I use a shorter stem they kick up a little bit too much and they don't have as much control, so the slightly longer stem does help with that, along with the thickness of the condor flight, gives it that extra stabilisation. I feel for me with a medium stem and a sort of condor flight, it has sort of too much drag and it sort of doesn't quite get to the board as quickly or as easily as I want it to, and I really have to sort of force them to the board. This is something you kind of notice if you practice pretty regularly. If you're a pretty casual player, you won't really notice this. But yeah, the overall effect of a stem going from short to medium is sort of just how much drag it enacts on the flight and how much stabilisation you have. Obviously, the longer the stem, the further back the centre of balance is, and that can also affect the flight of your dart in the air. Generally, you want your dart to go in a parabolic curve, which is sort of a natural curve. You don't want it to really kick up too much. Obviously, this also comes from technique as well. There's a whole load of factors involved. But for me personally, I like an intermediate stem with a sort of like integrated condor flight because they're slightly thicker. That gives me the perfect amount of drag enacted on my dart so that it doesn't slow down too much as it's part of my release, but it also stabilises it enough, just enough, so that it flies straight, because it's trying to get that perfect balance of not being unstable but also not causing too much drag so that it slows down and you really have to force it to the board. So it's finding that perfect balance and changing your flight and stem setup and experimenting with that, is something that people have to do. And also it obviously depends on the weight of your darts, how you throw, the shape of your darts, the shape of your stems, the thickness of your flights. There's so many different factors involved. And what I would say is when you're testing out darts, just make sure you try and perhaps film your throw from behind and just see how the dart flies through the air. Generally, you want it to fly in a straight line. You don't want it kicking side to side. but obviously you don't want to be over forcing them, and you don't want them to be sort of like dropping low from where you're aiming as well. This isn't a definitive factor. Obviously you could have your darts drop quite low if it is down to technique. The thing I would say to look out for is they start off very quick and they will drop very, very suddenly if there's too much drag enacted on the dart. And yeah guys, that is it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Talking Tungsten podcast. I'll hopefully be back pretty soon. I know there's a few more darts launches coming out as well. As I said before, if you head over to premierdarts.co.uk, make sure you check out all of the new Winmau stuff. It will be under the new tab on the website, and I'll also leave the link in the description as well. Make sure if you do buy anything, as I said before, use the code MD5, that's MD for Matador Darts, at checkout to get 5% off, and obviously show Premier Darts that you guys are supporting me and I'm supporting them through you guys using my code. That's it for now guys, thank you for listening, I'll see you next time, bye bye.